Hi, and welcome to the first class FX PhD photogrammetry. On this class, we're going to use reality capture and show you all the interface and see how it works on the basics. So first of all, we need to check which version we're going to use. So try to make sure you have the latest version. So the current version today, in end of July 2019, is the version 1.03.6310 RC. So this is very, very important because we do have quite often big improvements or bugs fixed between different versions. So I want to make sure we can use exactly the same version. If you don't have the latest version here, you just have to go to the website and on realitycapture.com. So this website will provide you the latest released up to date. So if you go to Reality Capture here, you have an account, and then when you scroll down, you can see here you have the latest version of Reality Capture. So just please download it and install it so we can show we have the identical version. So the first thing we're gonna see is how Reality Capture works. So we do have two different way or workflow to work with. The first one here is the kind of workflow, like the very automatic workflow. So when you open Reality Capture here, you can see you have three different tabs here. So the first icon here is just to new and open different projects. And then you have different layouts, but we're gonna use the default one, for instance, for now. And then we have here how we can set up our different layouts. But again, we're gonna use the default one for now. Here you do have four different tabs. So the workflow here is the first tab. So the workflow tab is the one we're gonna use at the beginning. So it's a very straightforward workflow. So you just have to follow from left to right the workflow. So we do have like four different categories. The first category, it's a very basic one. It's just to import different pictures in our software here. And then we can align our picture with different tools here. So we can use different LiDAR, we can use different information based on sets if you make some measurements or any GPS information. And the one we're gonna interest to now, right after importing our data, is to use a processed here. So on this section, we can have the align images. So it's how we can align our images here. And then we can use different tools to calculate the model, to simplify the model, colorize, texture, and projects. And finally, when you're happy with the results, we can use here the export category here. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4 here, but basically it's very straightforward. So for instance, here you can import manually. So we're gonna start with our Santa Maria picture here. So what you're gonna do here, when you clicked here input, you can select which picture. If you press Ctrl, you can import manually. Or obviously you can press Ctrl A and select everything. But obviously if you want to select not only few pictures and you want to open a folder, you just need to click folder here. And then you can select a folder instead of specific images. So here we're gonna select our Santa Maria. If you're on different subfolder, please tick this one, just so you can go and run through every single subfolder and press OK. So right now we have two different things. We have here in our layouts two different sections. We have the 1Ds here and then the 3D view. So here it's why we can have different layouts. We can select which D do you want to see. So the 1D here, for instance, it's kind of outliner in Maya. So you can select and see whatever you have in your software. So for instance, if I go back to my first layout here, just to keep it simple first, you can see you have every single images. So if you click on one, you have the EXIF data. So this is very, very important. So even if it's just a JPEG, here you can see which files do we have imported, and each file can be read from the software. So you can see different informations, which camera did I use here, the different focal lengths, and so on. So we have a lot of different information based on the EXIF here on the picture. So here we have 69 millimeters, 149 picture imported in this 1D outliner. So if I want to change here, for instance, in 2D, we have the preview of the picture. So if you select each picture, you have basically the small animation. So you can run through with, if you click on the picture, the different picture you took here. So basically, here we run around and take a picture of every single angle of the status, just to make sure we cover as much as possible. Obviously, during the photogrammetry, we're going to see different aspects and how we have to take the picture on sets, and this is very, very important. But for now, this is the outliner based on the images. So let's go back here on the 3D here. For instance, you noticed here, when I click on the small question mark, we expected to see the help, but unfortunately, again, we see only this versioning. If you want to access on the help, you have to go here and accept an access to help here. And then you do have a bunch of help, and wiki is very helpful to understand how the photogrammetry works. And we're going to come back in a minute. Let's go back in our 3D view. First of all, now we did import here, and we don't have any information more than the picture we took here. We don't have any LiDAR, we don't have any ground point, we don't get information. What we have to do is just to align the picture. So if I click here, basically you're gonna try to align and see the relationship between each images. So if we click here in align, we can see these windows on the top of everything. You can pause, you can abort and cancel, or you can minimize here. So because it's not a very long project, it's extremely fast to line up every single picture. We have an estimation time and since how long this process started. So basically, depends of your images. This could take a few minutes or even hours, depends of the accuracy of your pictures, of your data, how blurry, how bright, and different important information we're gonna see later, how we take picture on set to make sure we can help the software to align and regenerate a mesh and make the texture. So what's very important first is make sure you cover in 360 on every single aspect and angle of your status on these cases, and make sure the more you cover, the more images you're gonna take, the easiest the software we're gonna create this. So now you can see after a few seconds or like roughly minutes, we have a point clouds and based on the alignment. So before we used to have just image and control point here, because here we have different, we can see what we can do, like create a distance or to create different points relationship between each other. But we're not gonna go through yet this category. What we see now is this new component 0. So here, if you open, you can see camera poses, and inside you do have 149 registered. So means it did find all the picture and it reconstructs every single picture here. So we don't have any issue during the lineup of the photogrammetry and the point cloud. So if you go on this picture, for instance, you can see how many points it defined to samples this image. So every single picture, we do have a different samples and sampling on each pictures here. So if I go back here, if I use my 3 different mouse button, if I go scroll down, you can see Reality Capture did quite a great job. And we can see already, we do have my status here almost reconstructs with a different camera and picture I took. So what is very, very interesting here, it's you can see the coverage. So let's go on the top view here. So with the right button on the mouse, you can just pivot. The middle one, you can scroll in and out, and the left one just to pan. So if I right click and go on the top view, you can see every single picture I took here and how to reproject and use for the photogrammetry. So you can see I did a quick walk around just to cover as much as possible the statue. And what is very important is just to make sure in between each picture you don't have a big gap. So the more picture you take in between, the better and more accurate the photogrammetry will be. So you can see this is a little bit not very straightforward, but you can see the ground is the same. So it means this was a little bit with an angle here. So again, just try to cover as much as possible. Of course, if we will have like something to go higher, it will be easier for me because I will cover even more angle. Just to take some picture from the top here will be even better, and even from the top, but unfortunately I couldn't. So right now, what we have is different things. This point clouds, it's very, very interesting. So what I can do straight away here, it's based on the align, I can calculate a model. So here, there's many options. The first thing I can do is just to click and just wait just to wait the alignment on the images here. But now, what I want to do here is to calculate a model. So to calculate the model is basically how much and how accurate, how many polygons and triangle I'm gonna have based on the reconstruction of my model. And here you do have 3 different options, and each option is taking even obviously more longer. So the preview quality, the normal quality, and the high quality. So the preview quality is very interesting because you can see roughly how the reconstruction of the model, how long and how accurate this is gonna be. So what I'm gonna do first is just to use a preview quality. And this you can see is gonna take just a few seconds. Again, you have an estimation, and if you want to do something else, you can minimize here. And this was very interesting. So because we do have a bounding box here, it tried to recreate the model based on the bounding box. But obviously what I'm interested of, it's only the status. So I don't need basically the rest of this. So you can see in my outliner here, I do have again my camera pose, so it's basically my alignments, and then I have my model 1. So if I click here, you can see my part 1, and I have 350,000 triangle for the total amount of the reconstruction. And if you just change the size of the windows, you have a little bit more information of the model here. So what I'm gonna try now is just, I think I have to make sure I can refocus my quality here. So just to do this, I'm gonna just go back in the posing and click on this bounding box, and when you clicked, what appeared is just those small controller. So what I'm gonna do now is just to adjust this bounding box slightly closer to the status, because again, what I'm interested of, it's only the status, nothing else. And I want to just concentrate the amount of quality on the status. So now the bounding box is slightly more accurate. I can obviously go a little bit closer. You don't have to be extremely precise because it's just empty, just to have something decent, not too high, not too low, just to make sure the bounding box cover as much as, the bounding box is as close as possible, but don't be extremely precise. Always leave a small gap in between because you have to make sure the approximation is not extremely precise. So now I'm gonna do another one and do again a preview model. It's gonna resolve my case, and what I have now, there we go, I do have now two models. So every time you process on something here, it's Reality Capture keep the different history. So this is very interesting because you don't have to Ctrl Z or go backwards. You just have to doing different tests and make sure which version is better. So now, what is very interesting now here on my case, it's my model. I'm gonna select and press F. There we go. You can see on this, only this status, I have 3000 triangle instead of 350 on the total amount of the scene. So I just refocus mainly the geometry here. So it's going to be much more accurate. So now I do have this. What I can do, I can obviously, if I'm not happy with that, I can delete. So if I click here, I'm gonna delete the model. So I'm gonna just keep it for now. And I'm gonna go back here. So let's delete. It's gonna disappear in a minute and just focus on this one. So this now is my status. And I just kept model 2. So now I'm quite happy with this model. What I can do straight away is instead of keeping a preview because I'm happy with the bounding box, I'm happy with this kind of quick preview, I can just go here and press F7, obviously, or just click on normal. So now I'm gonna probably take a little bit longer. So here is gonna take, I guess, few minutes just to rebuild everything here. So we just have to wait the reconstruction time for this normal quality. So I'm gonna stop the video now and just come back in a minute just when this is finished. Now this is done, what I'm gonna show you, this is the quality of the photogrammetry. And you noticed here we do have, instead of having 3000 triangle, we do have 2 million triangle. So the quality is much more accurate, and you can see Reality Capture did a very, very good job about how to reconstruct the model. I'm gonna just go back quickly, just go to Nuke, and this is basically the image I took on set. So there's different thing I want to mention. The first thing here is you can see this is very, very tight here, and the status, it's going like on the side. So I'm gonna just create a quick transform just to rotate and scale down slightly this picture, and then doing a quick crop so we can see a little bit better how the shoot was done. And I'm gonna do full screen. I just changed to input, so the input is exactly my file sequence. So, few things we have to check and comment about how those pictures were took. So, first of all, you can see what is very important when you try to do some photogrammetry is to make sure each picture covers the full objects. So for instance here, this picture cover but have a little bit of crop here. So this have to be a little bit lower. So even if it's have a gap here and here, it's absolutely fine. It's better to have gaps in between the objects than to crop. Meaning on this picture, reality capture won't be able to reconstruct the geometry. But because we covered quite a lot, he's able to do it. So you can see every single picture have to be taken or zoom out a little bit, or you move backwards or a little bit just to make sure you can cover the full status. Here is the same. You can see the gap, it's very, very tight. So it's better to leave and have more this kind of gap. So here you can see every single picture is cropped. So I think what I recommend during those sequence, it's better to have, for instance, a picture, let's say, for instance, this one. This is good because you have a gap here and we have a gap on the top. So this is absolutely perfect. So we're not gonna lose any information in between picture. And the second thing is, you can see in between picture, I do have a very, very small angle. So I don't come from this to this one here. I try to cover as much as possible picture in between. Yeah, this one, for instance, it's like a big, big, big crop. So again, try to make sure every single picture is taken properly and we can see the full model. Second thing is, make sure you take as much as possible. The more picture you have, the easier and simpler reality capture we solved the solution. So it doesn't matter if you have 300 or 400 or 500, the more the better. Of course, we do have limitation with the memory, but it's always the same thing. It's always better to take a lot of picture in between each photo. And now we have this sequence here. You can see the quality is a bit blurry, but it's absolutely fine. And my reality capture do have this kind of the same blurriness, but it's enough to recognize the status. And even here, you can see it's every single picture again. If I select this, I press F, I can turn around and see this angle of the picture. So I try to take every single picture and based on each picture, try to reproject and recreate my photogrammetry. So I do have 149 picture. So the third thing, it would be great if I can finish this circle. Again, try to do a quick try to do a full 360 of the object. This is very, very, very important. And this approximation on the top is probably for two things. First, because I was quite low in the camera and I haven't covered everything because each picture is missing a lot of information on the top. And as well, I should take picture from above just to make sure we can reconstruct here. For instance, here, I have to do it manually, probably in the software, just to help rebuilding the top of the status. Because we don't have any pictures, this software or any software cannot reinvent the geometry. It cannot guess how is the shape of the object. So unfortunately, we do have this small cleanup to do, but for now, it's absolutely fine. You can see we have a very accurate model. And here, for instance, because I do cover a lot, we noticed a lot of pictures didn't have this section, but because we do cover quite a lot of photo doing a 360 or at least this big turnaround, it's enough for him to rebuild this photogrammetry. So now we are here. What I'm gonna do, it's basically the last steps is just to mesh it. So you can do default render, you can create like a fly through, like basically Playblast, or you can just simply export a mesh. So if you just carry on again this workflow tab, imports, aligned, rebuild, and export, and that's it. Here I can go to my, for instance, projects. So I'm gonna go here in caches or something else. I'm gonna create a new folder, obj, obj, obj. Here, I'm gonna go inside and export Saint Maria version 01. And here you do have like different exports. Obviously, you can export in XYZ, you can export in AutoCAD if you have AutoCAD, you can export on different meshes, but for us, we're gonna use a very simple obj. And if you click save, you have different options, the classic option from the obj. So you just have to leave everything by default. We don't need anything else except the obj and even the scale or the floating accuracy. So you don't have to change anything. And you click export. By default, if you have some texture or you colorize a mesh, it's gonna export different things. But in our cases, we don't need anything else. So now we have to save this somewhere in 2000 here, ready capture, and I can save it as Saint Maria. And I'm gonna rename this one 3. Finished, saved. So I have the project saved somewhere if I want to go back or do different version. And now I can go in Maya, actually just for now, because I'm gonna do different things just to finish and see the difference between the preview, normal and high quality. What I can do a quick high quality here. This gonna take probably a while. The normal quality took approximately 4 minutes, 4 or 5 each minutes. This one's gonna take probably like a solid 15 minutes or even more. We're gonna see at the end. Here, for instance, he estimates 7 p.m. So means for me like in 10 minutes, but it's probably more. It's gonna maybe increase this time. Depends of how good is the pictures. So in the meantime, I can go minimized and go back here because at least I have the end now. I can just do something and it's going here, a new tab process, and I can go show process, see where it is. There we go, 5 more minutes already. So now it's in 15 minutes. So in parallel, I'm gonna just in Maya import my mesh. So I go in obj, caches, obj, Saint Maria. So I have my material, I just need this one. Depends of your graphic card, depends of your machine, it can take a bit of time because the photogrammetry is very heavy mesh by default, but I'm just gonna take a few minutes because, a few seconds, sorry, because it's gonna take the full mesh. So here in info, you can see 2 minions, 1, 2, 3, yeah, 2 minions and something. And I can assign a quick material. Let's do an Arnold. Let's take default shader. And maybe it would be great if I can rotate slightly this for 90 degrees, minus 90. And now we do have our photogrammetry of Saint Maria in Maya. So here you can see every single triangle. So it's why it's so heavy, but, and it's just a medium, sorry, the normal quality could be even heavier, probably around 8 millions triangle, could be even heavier and even more accurate. So this we can compare with the previous one and the new one. So for instance, here, if I go back to my photogrammetry, I'm gonna take this one here, meshes. I'm gonna just cancel this one, for instance, boards. Yeah, go back to this one just to hide my very accurate mesh. Come back to this one. Oops, no, sorry, this one. And I'm gonna just export preview. Just rename preview. There we go. Export. So it's like extremely fast. Go back here, imports, mesh. If I compare the preview, is 21 megabytes compared to 145 megabytes imports. Obviously, I have to do the same rotation, and I'm gonna assign an existing material and minus 90 degrees. So it just line up, just makes sense. Oops, just hide it. So this was my preview mesh. So very low quality, but we do have only 300,000 triangle, and this is the final result. And now this is our default mesh with the medium here. So I'm gonna just go back to this one, make sure we can have a high quality meshes, and we're gonna see that on the next classes, how accurate is the high quality meshes based on the REST construction. I hope this was clear as an overview workflow for the photogrammetry. Let's see on the next classes how we can push forward even more the tools of reality capture. Thank you very much and see you next classes.